The council chamber was massive, built to hold beings from 100 different worlds. Captain Jiho stood in the center of the circular room, his boots clicking against the polished floor as he walked to the speaking platform. Above him, the council members sat in their elevated seats, looking down at the human with expressions that ranged from curiosity to outright mockery. Jiho had served in Earth's military for 15 years before becoming a diplomat. He was used to hostile environments. But standing here, surrounded by aliens who thought humans were liars, was a different kind of challenge. Beside him stood Ambassador Hana, Earth's chief representative. She was a scientist first, a diplomat second. Her specialty was xenobiology, the study of alien life forms. She had spent the last 3 months trying to convince the council that Earth's data files were accurate. They did not believe her. "Your reports are impossible," said Councillor Vethran, the leader of the insectoid Vren species. His mandibles clicked together as he spoke, a sound that the translation device turned into words. No species could evolve on a world with such extreme conditions. Hana stepped forward. Her voice was calm and professional. "Counselor, every piece of data we submitted has been verified by your own scientists. Earth's gravity is twice the galactic standard. Our atmosphere contains oxygen levels that would be toxic to most species here. We have extreme weather patterns, unstable tectonic plates, and predators at every level of our food chain." A ripple of what sounded like laughter moved through the chamber. The crystalline Lutherians made a chiming sound. The amphibious Queller croaked in amusement. Even the normally stoic Vren seemed entertained. "You expect us to believe," Vethran said, "that you evolved on a world where the very air would poison us? Where the gravity would crush our bones? Where your own planet tries to kill you with earthquakes and storms?" He leaned forward in his seat. "These are the myths of a death world. Children's stories meant to frighten the weak." Jiho felt his jaw tighten. He had expected skepticism. He had not expected to be called a liar in front of the entire galactic government. "They are not myths," Jiho said quietly. "They are facts," another counselor spoke up. This one was a Lutherian named Zorval, her crystalline body refracting light into rainbow patterns. "Captain Jiho, we have examined your physical records. You claim that human bones are denser than standard, that your muscles contain fibers that allow for explosive strength, that your bodies can heal from injuries that would be fatal to us." She paused. "These claims suggest biological engineering, cybernetic enhancement, not natural evolution." "We are not enhanced," Hana said firmly. "We are simply the product of our environment. Earth shaped us, made us strong because the weak did not survive." "Convenient," Vethran muttered. "You cannot prove your world is as dangerous as you claim without bringing us there. And you cannot expect us to risk our lives visiting a planet that may not even exist as you describe it." Jiho exchanged a glance with Hana. They had anticipated this. The council wanted proof, but they were afraid to see Earth with their own eyes. It was easier to dismiss humans as frauds than to accept the uncomfortable truth. "Then test us," Jiho said suddenly. The chamber fell silent. "What did you say?" Vethran asked. "Test us," Jiho repeated. He stepped forward, his movements smooth and controlled despite the lighter gravity of the station. "Design trials based on what you consider extreme conditions. Physical tests, endurance tests, whatever you need to see. If we fail, you can reject Earth's application for council membership. If we succeed, you accept that our data is accurate." Whispers filled the chamber. Counselors leaned toward each other, communicating in their various languages. The translation devices struggled to keep up with the overlapping conversations. Hana touched Jiho's arm. "Are you sure about this?" she whispered. "They will never believe us otherwise," Jiho replied softly, "and we need council membership. Earth needs access to galactic trade routes and protection treaties." Observer Qthen, a Queller scientist assigned to document the human application, spoke from his seat near the back. "This is highly irregular. We do not normally subject applicant species to physical trials." "These are not normal circumstances," Vethran said. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of excitement. "Very well, Captain Jiho. We accept your challenge. We will design 5 trials to test your claims. Each trial will push you to what we consider the limits of biological possibility." He leaned back in his seat. "When you fail, Earth will withdraw its application and admit to falsifying data." "And when we succeed?" Jiho asked. "Then we will reconsider our position," Vethran said, though his tone suggested he thought success was impossible. The council adjourned to design the trials. Jiho and Hana were escorted to their quarters in the diplomatic wing of the station. Once the door closed behind them, Hana let out a long breath. "You just committed us to proving the impossible," she said. "Not impossible," Jiho corrected. "Just improbable to them." He moved to the window, looking out at the stars. "They do not understand, Hana. They evolved on gentle worlds. Planets with stable weather and moderate gravity. They never had to fight for every breath, every meal, every day of survival." "And we did," Hana said quietly. "Every human did," Jiho agreed. "Our ancestors climbed down from the trees and walked across continents. They survived ice ages and droughts. They fought predators with nothing but stones and determination." He turned to face her. "We are not special because we wanted to be. We are special because Earth gave us no choice." Hana nodded slowly. "The trials will be difficult. For them, maybe," Jiho said with a slight smile. "For us, probably just another Tuesday." The next morning, they received the list of trials. Hana read through them carefully, her expression shifting from concern to confusion to something that might have been amusement. "They have no idea," she said finally. "None at all," Jiho agreed. The first trial would begin in 3 days. The entire council would watch. Observers from a dozen species would document everything, and humans would finally prove that the Deathworld myths were not myths at all. They were just another day on Earth. Jiho spent those 3 days preparing. Not physically, he was already in excellent condition. But mentally, he reviewed everything he knew about galactic species. Their weaknesses, their limitations, what they considered impossible. On the morning of the first trial, he stood in the preparation room with Hana and 2 other humans who had volunteered to help. Lieutenant Yuna, a combat specialist, and Specialist Sunwoo, a medic and biologist. "Remember," Hana said quietly, "do not show off. Do not make them feel inferior. Just complete the trials efficiently." "Efficiently might still look like showing off," Yuna pointed out. "From their perspective. Then we will apologize for our efficiency," Jiho said. He checked his uniform one last time. "Ready?" They nodded. The door opened and they walked toward the testing facility. Behind them, the fate of Earth's galactic future hung in the balance. Ahead of them, aliens waited to watch humans fail. They would be disappointed. The testing facility was built like an arena. Thousands of seats surrounded a massive central floor that could be reconfigured for different challenges. Today, those seats were filled with curious aliens, all eager to watch the humans fail. Jiho walked onto the floor with his team. The lighting was harsh and bright, designed for species with different visual spectrums. He could hear the crowd murmuring, the translation devices creating a low buzz of overlapping voices. "Welcome to the first trial," Vethran announced from his observation booth high above the arena. "We will test your claims about gravity tolerance. Your data suggests you evolved in gravity twice our standard. We find this difficult to believe." Yuna stepped forward. She was 28 years old, a former athlete before joining Earth's space program. She had competed in track and field events where humans pushed their bodies to the absolute limit. This trial would not be her first challenge. "The course before you," Vethran continued, "is designed for our elite military personnel. It must be completed under elevated gravity conditions. We have set the gravity to 1.2 times standard." Hana frowned. She leaned close to Jiho. "That is still less than Earth gravity," she whispered. "I know," Jiho replied quietly. They had not told the council that Earth's gravity was actually higher than what the aliens considered extreme. The galactic standard was about 60% of Earth's gravity. The council thought they were being cruel by setting the trial at 1.2 standard. They were actually making it easier. Yuna stretched her arms and legs, loosening her muscles. "I am ready," she said. "Begin," Vethran commanded. The gravity increased. Yuna felt the change immediately, but it was like putting on a light jacket rather than a heavy burden. The obstacle course stretched before her. Walls to climb, gaps to jump, weights to carry, and a maze to navigate. It was designed to take an elite alien soldier 45 minutes to complete. Yuna started running. The crowd fell silent as they watched her move. She ran up the first wall without hesitation, her fingers finding holds that were meant to be barely reachable. She pulled herself up with ease, her muscles working efficiently in the increased gravity. Observer Q then was recording everything on his datapad. His large eyes blinked slowly as he watched. "Impossible," he muttered. "She should be struggling. Yuna reached the top of the wall and jumped to the next platform. She landed smoothly, absorbed the impact with her legs, and kept moving. The gap jump came next. It was 5 meters across, a distance that required maximum effort from most species. She cleared it easily. How? Someone in the crowd asked loudly. Sunwoo stood next to Jiho, watching his teammate work. Should we tell them? He asked quietly. Not yet, Jiho said. Let them figure it out. Yuna picked up the weighted containers, one in each hand. They were supposed to be heavy, challenging to carry even in normal gravity. Under increased gravity, they should have been nearly impossible to move. She lifted them like they were empty boxes and continued through the course. The maze was next. It required quick thinking and faster movement, navigating tight turns and dead ends. Yuna moved through it like water flowing downhill, never hesitating, never doubling back. She had run similar courses on Earth during her training. This one was simple by comparison. 22 minutes after she started, Yuna crossed the finish line. The arena was completely silent. Vetheran stared down at her, his mandibles frozen in mid-click. 22 minutes, he said slowly. The record for this course is 41 minutes, set by our best soldier, in normal gravity. Yuna was barely breathing hard. She looked up at the observation booth and gave a small bow. Thank you for the opportunity, she said politely. The crowd erupted in noise. Aliens were standing, pointing, talking rapidly to each other. The translation devices could not keep up with all the different conversations happening at once. She must be enhanced, someone shouted. There is no other explanation. Counselor, Hana said, stepping forward. May I explain? Vetheran nodded slowly, still looking shocked. Earth's gravity is not 1.2 times your standard, Hana said clearly. It is approximately 1.6 times your standard. What you consider an extreme challenge is actually lighter than what we experience every day. The arena fell silent again. You are saying, Q then said slowly, that you deliberately understated your world's conditions? No, Jiho said. We reported them accurately, but your scientists did not believe us. They adjusted the numbers down, thinking we were exaggerating. We were not. Sorval's crystalline body flickered with agitated colors. Then the second trial will prove more challenging, she said. We will test your resistance to biological threats. The second trial began an hour later. The testing chamber was sealed and sterile. Sunwoo entered alone, wearing only basic clothing. No protective gear. No medical equipment. We will introduce bacterial agents into the chamber, Sorval explained. These are common pathogens from 3 different worlds. Mild by our standards, but capable of causing illness. You claim human immune systems are exceptionally strong. We will see. Sunwoo stood calmly in the center of the chamber as colored gas filled the space. The bacteria were suspended in the air, designed to enter through breathing and skin contact. How long do I need to remain here? Sunwoo asked. 30 minutes, Sorval said. If you show signs of distress, we will extract you immediately. 30 minutes passed. Then 40. Then an hour. Sunwoo showed no signs of discomfort. He sat down cross-legged on the floor and appeared to be meditating. Kuden was taking rapid notes. His body temperature has not changed. No inflammation. No immune response visible on our scanners. He looked at Hana. Explain this. Hana pulled up a holographic display. The human immune system evolved fighting thousands of deadly pathogens. Earth is full of bacteria, viruses, parasites, and fungi that want to use our bodies as hosts. Our immune system learned to fight constantly. What you introduced to that chamber would not even register as a threat to Sunwoo's body. But these bacteria should cause fever at minimum, Sorval insisted. On your worlds, maybe, Hana said. On Earth, we have bacteria that can kill in hours. Viruses that have wiped out millions of humans throughout our history. We developed immunity not by being safe, but by dying and having the survivors pass on stronger genes. She paused. Sunwoo's ancestors survived plague, smallpox, tuberculosis, and countless other diseases. His immune system is the result of millions of years of warfare against microscopic enemies. They let Sunwoo out after 2 hours. He showed no effects from the exposure. The third trial was endurance, a 48-hour marathon through changing environmental conditions. Hot, then cold. Humid, then dry. The course included obstacles, puzzles, and physical challenges. It was designed to break even the strongest alien soldier. Jiho took this trial himself. He started in hour 1 and did not stop. When the temperature climbed to what the aliens considered dangerously hot, Jiho kept moving. When it dropped to freezing levels, he adjusted his pace but continued forward. He solved puzzles while climbing. He navigated obstacles while exhausted. He drank water when it was provided and ate the nutrition bars Hana had prepared. At hour 30, the observers were getting worried. "He needs to rest," one of them said. "He will collapse." "Humans are persistence hunters," Hana explained. She had explained this several times already, but they still did not understand. "Our ancestors would chase prey for days, not by being faster but by never stopping. We can regulate our body temperature through sweating. We can maintain a steady pace for hours. We do not sprint and rest like most species. We move continuously until the target stops." "That is terrifying," Q then said quietly. At hour 36, Jiho finished the course. He was tired but functional. His body was covered in sweat, his muscles were sore, but he walked off the course under his own power. The medical team scanned him immediately. "His body is exhausted," the medical officer reported, "but within normal parameters. He could continue if needed." "Normal parameters?" Vetheron repeated weakly. The council members looked at each other. 3 trials completed. 3 impossible results, and they still had 2 more trials planned. But they were starting to understand something that frightened them. The humans were not lying. The Deathworld myths were real. And if Earth was truly as dangerous as the data suggested, then humans were not fragile newcomers to the galaxy. They were survivors of a world that would kill most species within days. Vetheron called for a recess. The council needed time to discuss what they had witnessed. As Jiho, Yuna, and Sunwoo left the arena, they could hear the aliens talking in hushed, worried tones. "They are scared," Yuna observed. "Good," Jiho said. "Fear leads to respect, and respect is what we need." 6 months passed after the delegation's visit to Earth. The council had not yet made a final decision on humanity's membership. They were still debating, still trying to understand what it meant to have Deathworld. Survivors in their government, then the Krell attacked. The Krell Dominion was an aggressive species that had been testing the council's borders for years. They were warriors trained from birth to fight and conquer. They believed in strength above all else. And they believed the council was weak. The attack came without warning. 3 colony worlds along the disputed border were hit simultaneously. The Krell used biological weapons, releasing engineered pathogens into the atmospheres of the colonies. Within hours, the council's peacekeeping forces were incapacitated. Soldiers fell sick. Evacuation became impossible. The colonies were paralyzed. The council emergency session was chaotic. Representatives shouted over each other, proposing strategies that had already failed. Their military was not equipped for this kind of warfare. Hana stood in the council chamber, now holding the rank of general after her promotion to military liaison. She listened to the panic for 5 minutes before speaking. "We can help," she said quietly. The chamber fell silent. "You?" Vetheron said. "Humans? You are not even full council members yet. Which is why we will do this as a gesture of good faith," Hana replied. "Earth has rapid response teams trained for exactly this kind of situation. Hostile environments, biological hazards, combat in extreme conditions. Send us in." Zorval, who had never forgotten her terror on Earth, spoke up. "If humans think they can survive where our forces failed, then let them try." The council agreed. They had no better options. Commander Doyen received his orders while stationed on Earth's orbital platform. He was a veteran of 15 campaigns, most of them in hostile territory on Earth itself, fighting in deserts, jungles, Arctic regions. He had seen action in places where the environment was as dangerous as the enemy. His team consisted of 40 soldiers, men and women who had trained for years in Earth's harshest conditions. They packed their gear efficiently, checking weapons, medical supplies, and environmental suits that were less protective than alien ones, but more mobile. Private Sora was the youngest member of the team. This was her first real combat deployment. She was nervous but ready. Her training had been brutal, designed to weed out anyone who could not handle extreme stress. She had survived it. Now she would prove she belonged. The transport ship carried them to the closest affected colony, a mining settlement on a moon with harsh conditions. High gravity, toxic atmosphere, extreme temperatures. The Krell had chosen it specifically because they knew council forces would struggle there. Mission brief. Doyen said as they approached. The Krell used a biological weapon, airborne pathogen, incapacitation in 3 to 6 hours, fatal in 24 hours if untreated. The peacekeepers are all sick. The civilians are barricaded in shelters but will run out of air soon. Do we have immunity? One soldier asked. Unknown, Doyen admitted, but our medics analyzed the pathogen. It is similar to Earth viruses we have encountered. Our immune systems should handle it. We will wear basic hazmat gear just in case. They landed in the middle of a war zone. The Krell had not left after deploying their weapon. They were waiting, preparing to occupy the colony once everyone was dead or too weak to fight. Doyen's team stepped off the transport wearing hazmat suits that looked flimsy compared to council equipment. But they were designed for mobility, not maximum protection. Human doctrine emphasized movement and speed over heavy armor. The gravity hit them immediately. It was 1.4 times Earth standard. Heavy but manageable. Feels like wearing a backpack, Sora commented. Stay focused, Doyen ordered. Enemy contacts expected within 500 meters. 2 teams. Alpha secures the civilians. Bravo engages the Krell. Move out. They split up. Doyen led Bravo team toward the Krell position. They moved quickly, using the terrain for cover. The moon's surface was rocky and unstable, with frequent tremors from underground mining operations. The Krell had set up a perimeter, confident that no one could challenge them in these conditions. They were wrong. The first Krell patrol never saw Doyen's team coming. Humans moved silently, trained to hunt without being detected. By the time the Krell realized they were under attack, half their patrol was down. The Krell were shocked. They were wearing full environmental protection, struggling with the gravity and atmosphere. The humans moved like they were taking a walk in a park. Impossible. The Krell patrol leader growled into his communicator. They should be dying from the pathogen. Negative effect, Doyen reported to his medic. The bioweapon is not working on us. Confirmed, Sunwoo replied from Alpha Team. He was analyzing the pathogen in real time. It targets respiratory systems common in council species. Human lungs are different, more robust. Our immune response is neutralizing it before it can establish infection. The Krell warlord Thax received the reports with disbelief. He had studied council species for years. He knew their weaknesses, their biological vulnerabilities. He had designed this attack to exploit those weaknesses perfectly, but humans were not in his database. Send all forces, Thax ordered. Eliminate these newcomers. The battle intensified. Krell soldiers poured out of their fortified positions, expecting to overwhelm the small human force with numbers. Doyen's team held their ground. They fought with precision and efficiency, using tactics the Krell had never encountered. Humans did not fight like other species. They did not rely on technology alone. They adapted. They improvised. They used the environment itself as a weapon. An explosion rocked the battlefield. Sora found herself separated from her squad, pinned down behind a boulder with 3 Krell soldiers advancing on her position. She took a hit. A Krell weapon fired some kind of projectile that punched through her hazmat suit and cracked 2 of her ribs. The pain was immediate and intense. Any other species would have withdrawn, called for medical evacuation, stopped fighting. Sora took 3 deep breaths, testing her breathing. The ribs were cracked but not broken through. Painful but functional. She could still fight. She moved. The Krell were not expecting her to counterattack while injured. She came around the boulder firing, taking down 1 soldier before the others could react. She engaged in close combat with the second, using hand-to-hand techniques that the Krell in their bulky armor could not counter. The 3rd Krell tried to flee. Sora shot him from 20 meters away while holding her injured side. Bravo 7 to command, she reported, her voice tight with pain. 3 hostiles down, requesting medical when available. Copy that, 7, Doyen replied. Can you continue? Sora checked herself. The pain was bad but manageable. Affirmative. Continuing mission. She rejoined her squad 30 minutes later. The medic gave her a field injection for pain and wrapped her ribs. Then she went back to fighting. The Krell could not understand it. One of their recordings showed the entire incident. Their analysts watched it over and over, trying to comprehend what they were seeing. She was injured, one analyst said, severely. We detected broken bones. She should have been incapacitated. She fought for 3 more hours, another analyst replied. Even led an assault on our position. This is not normal. It was normal for humans. On Earth, you did not get to stop just because you were hurt. You kept moving or you died. That lesson had been carved into human DNA over millions of years. The battle lasted 72 hours. Doyen's team fought continuously, taking short breaks to eat and hydrate but never truly resting. They rotated positions, maintained their equipment, and slowly pushed the Krell back. The Krell had never faced an enemy like this. Enemies who did not tire, who did not break, who fought through injuries that should have been fatal. On the third day, Warlord Thax ordered a retreat. "We cannot defeat them," he told his commanders. "Not in these conditions. They are adapted for this environment. We are not." The Krell withdrew from all 3 colonies. They left behind their weapons, their equipment, and their wounded. They fled back to their own territory, shaken and confused. When the Council reinforcements finally arrived, they found the human team securing the colonies. The civilians were safe. The Krell were gone. And Doyen's soldiers were sitting around eating ration packs like they had just finished a training exercise. "How?" Vetheron demanded when he arrived to inspect the site. "How did you fight for 3 days without rest?" "We rested," Doyen corrected. "We took breaks. Rotated our people. Standard procedure." "Your soldier fought with broken bones," Vetheron said, pointing at Sora. "We have medical records. She should have been evacuated immediately." Sora shrugged carefully, mindful of her wrapped ribs. "It hurt, but I could still function. The mission was more important than my comfort." Vetheron stared at her, then at Doyen, then at the rest of the team, who were calmly cleaning their weapons and checking their equipment. "You are not like us," he said finally. "No," Doyen agreed. "We are not. We are from Earth, and Earth taught us that survival is not about being comfortable. It is about doing what is necessary, no matter how hard it is." The Council observers documented everything. The footage was sent to every Council member. They watched humans do things that their own soldiers considered impossible. They saw the Krell, who had terrorized the borders for years. The Council voted to send a delegation to Earth. After 3 trials that shattered their understanding of biological limits, they needed to see the Deathworld with their own eyes. They were still not entirely convinced. Perhaps the humans had found a way to cheat. Perhaps there was technology involved that their scanners had missed, or perhaps the more frightening option, the humans were telling the truth. The delegation consisted of 5 members. Counselor Zorval led the group, her crystalline body contained in a specially designed environmental suit. Observer Kathen came as the scientific recorder. 3 military observers from different species joined them, tasked with assessing any potential threat humans might pose. Dr. Minji was assigned as their guide. She was an ecologist who had spent her entire career studying Earth's biomes. She knew the planet's dangers better than most humans. She also knew that what she considered a safe nature walk would probably terrify the aliens. The delegation's ship entered Earth's orbit on a clear day. Through the viewports, they could see the planet rotating below. Blue oceans, green and brown continents, white clouds swirling in massive patterns. "It looks beautiful," Q then said quietly. "Looks can be deceiving," Minji replied. She pulled up a display showing current weather patterns. "See those spiral formations over the ocean? Those are hurricanes, storms that produce winds strong enough to destroy buildings. The one near the equator is Category 3 by our measurement." "Not even the strongest kind. How strong?" Zorval asked. "Category 5 hurricanes have winds exceeding 200 miles per hour, Minji said. "They can level entire cities. We have several every year." The military observers exchanged worried glances. "And you live through these?" one of them asked. "We build structures to withstand them," Minji explained. "We track them with satellites and evacuate people from their paths. Sometimes we fail and people die, but mostly we survive." The ship descended slowly. Minji had arranged for them to land at a research station in what she called a temperate forest. It was considered one of Earth's gentler environments. As they descended through the atmosphere, alarms started blaring in the ship. "What is happening?" Zorval demanded. "Turbulence," the pilot explained. "The atmospheric pressure changes rapidly as we descend." "This is normal for Earth." "Normal," Q then muttered, gripping his seat as the ship shook violently. They landed in a cleared area near the research station. The ship's sensors immediately started reporting data that seemed wrong. The computer kept flagging errors. "Oxygen concentration 21%, the computer announced. "Warning, toxic levels detected." "It is not toxic to us," Minji said calmly. Your sensors are calibrated for your atmospheres. For humans, this is normal. You will need to keep your environmental suits on at all times. The delegation emerged from the ship wearing full protection, sealed suits, breathing apparatus, temperature regulation, gravity compensation. They looked like they were exploring a hostile alien world. They were from their perspective. Minji wore only light clothing. A simple shirt and pants, shoes designed for walking on rough terrain, no helmet, no breathing gear. She stepped onto the grass and took a deep breath. The air is fresh today, she said cheerfully. Should be a nice walk. The delegation stood frozen at the base of the ship's ramp. You are breathing the atmosphere directly, Zorval said. Without filtration. Of course, Minji said. This is my planet. This is what I breathe every day. She gestured toward the forest. Come on. The nature preserve is about 1 kilometer away. Easy walk, easy for her perhaps. The delegation struggled with each step. Even with gravity compensation in their suits, they felt heavy. The air pressure was uncomfortable. The humidity made their suits work harder to maintain comfortable temperatures inside. They passed a small pond. Something moved in the water. What was that? Kuden asked nervously. Minji looked. Oh, just a frog. They are amphibious creatures, completely harmless to humans. How large do they grow? One of the military observers asked. This species? Maybe 4 or 5 inches. Minji smiled. There are bigger species in other parts of the world. But frogs are not dangerous, except for the poisonous ones. Poisonous, Zorval repeated flatly. Only a few species, Minji assured them, and none in this area probably. They continued walking. The forest grew thicker. Trees rose high above them, their branches creating a canopy that blocked much of the sunlight. The aliens looked up nervously. Those trees, Q then said. They must be hundreds of feet tall. These are actually relatively small, Minji said. Redwood trees on the western continent can grow over 300 feet. Some are thousands of years old, and they do not fall? Zorval asked. Sometimes they do, Minji admitted, but their root systems are strong. They evolved to withstand high winds and earthquakes. Earthquakes, another observer said weakly. Your planet's surface moves. The tectonic plates are constantly shifting, Minji explained. It causes earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis. Major events happen every few years. Minor ones happen daily. We have learned to build around them. Something buzzed past Qthen's helmet. He jumped backward with a startled croak. What was that? He demanded. Just a bee, Minji said. Flying insect. They pollinate flowers and make honey. It has weapons, Qthen said, pointing at the bee as it landed on a flower. I saw a stinger. Oh yes. They can sting if threatened. It hurts but is not usually dangerous to humans. Unless you are allergic, Minji paused. Some people die from bee stings if they have bad allergic reactions. But that is rare. The delegation stared at her. You have insects that can kill you, Zorval said slowly, and you consider them not dangerous. Well, bees are actually beneficial, Minji said. Now wasps, those are aggressive, and hornets, and fire ants, and bullet ants. Those have the most painful sting in the insect world, but we do not have any of those here today. They walked for another 10 minutes. Every few steps, something new would terrify the delegation. A butterfly that was too large, a bird call that was too loud, a rustling in the bushes that turned out to be a squirrel. That creature, one of the military observers said, pointing at the squirrel. What is it? A squirrel, Minji said. Small rodent. Eats nuts and seeds. Very common. The squirrel sat on a branch, holding an acorn in its tiny paws. It looked at the delegation with bright eyes, then scurried higher into the tree. It has claws, the observer noted. Sharp teeth. Fast movements. Yes, Minji said. Most animals on Earth have some form of defense or hunting capability. Even the small ones. They reached the nature preserve. Minji had set up a viewing area where they could observe Earth wildlife safely. Or what she considered safely. The first animal they saw was a deer. It stood in a clearing, grazing on grass. It looked peaceful. Gentle, see? Minji said. Not everything on Earth is dangerous. Deer are herbivores. They eat plants. What hunts them? Kuden asked. Oh, many things. Wolves, bears, mountain lions, coyotes, humans. Minji rattled off the list casually. Deer are prey animals. That is why they are so alert, always listening for predators. As if to demonstrate, the deer suddenly raised its head. Its ears swiveled. Then it bounded away in powerful leaps, covering 30 feet in seconds. Such speed, Zorval murmured. And you said this was prey. What do your predators look like? Minji hesitated. She had planned to introduce them to predators gradually. But at that moment, a cat walked out of the forest. It was a domestic cat, a tabby named Tiger, that belonged to one of the research station staff. It was well-fed, friendly, and absolutely harmless to humans. The delegation screamed. 3 of them actually ran back toward the ship. Zorval stood frozen. Kyo then fell over backward in his heavy suit. The cat, startled by the noise, ran away. Minji stared at the retreating aliens. That was just a cat, she called after them. A house pet. They are domesticated. It took her 20 minutes to calm them down. That creature, Zorval said, her voice shaking. Those eyes. Those claws. Those teeth. Cats are descended from wild hunters, Minji explained gently. They are very efficient predators for their size. But humans domesticated them thousands of years ago. They live in our homes. We feed them and pet them. Children play with them. Children, Kyo then repeated. Your offspring interact with predators. They are not dangerous to us, Minji insisted. They are small, usually between 8 and 15 pounds. They hunt mice and birds, not humans. One of the military observers pulled up a video file. We researched Earth animals before coming here. I found this recording labeled Tiger. Is this the same species? He showed them a video of a Bengal tiger, a massive predator weighing over 400 pounds. It was taking down prey 3 times its size. Oh, Minji said. No, that is a different kind of tiger. That is a wild predator. We named the cat Tiger because, well, it is a long story. But no, domestic cats and wild tigers are related but different species. You have multiple species of tiger, Zorval said. It was not a question. We have multiple species of many predators, Minji admitted. Earth's biodiversity is quite high. The delegation refused to leave the ship after that. They watched the forest through cameras and sensors, documenting everything from a safe distance. They saw birds, insects, and small mammals. Each discovery seemed to horrify them more than the last. 1 year after the Krell incident, the Galactic Council looked very different. The chamber was the same. The seats were in the same positions. But the atmosphere had changed completely. Humans were no longer visitors asking for permission to join. They were full members with voting rights and council representation. President Jiho sat in Earth's designated seat wearing formal diplomatic attire. The captain, who had once stood in the center of the chamber, defending his species against mockery, now sat among equals, or perhaps above equals. That was what worried some council members. The first major change came in the form of legislation. The Deathworld Protection Act was proposed by Zorval herself, who had never forgotten her terror on Earth's surface. We must acknowledge, Zorval said during the session, that our previous classification system for planetary environments was insufficient. We have rated worlds based on our own experiences, not on objective danger. Earth has forced us to recalibrate. The new system expanded the danger ratings from 5 categories to 15. Earth was rated Category 12. It was the highest rating ever given to an inhabited world. Only 2 other planets in the known galaxy were rated higher, and both were considered completely uninhabitable. This rating is not an insult, Vethran clarified when some council members protested. It is a recognition of fact. Earth is extraordinarily hostile to most forms of life. Humans are extraordinary for surviving there. The act included restrictions on which species could visit Deathworld environments. Travel to Earth now required special permits, extensive training, and waivers accepting personal risk. Tourism was essentially banned except for the most adventurous aliens. Humans did not object. They understood the caution. The second major change came from an unexpected source. Dr. Minji proposed the Deathworld Studies Program, an interspecies research initiative headquartered on Earth's orbital station. We can learn from each other, Minji explained to the council. Earth's environment pushed humans to develop certain biological advantages, but it also taught us valuable lessons about survival, adaptation, and resilience. We can share that knowledge. The program started small. 20 alien scientists volunteered to study Earth biology from orbit. They analyzed human physiology, Earth ecology, and evolutionary patterns. The data they gathered was revolutionary. One Lutherian researcher discovered that human bone density could be replicated in other species through specific mineral supplements and exercise regimens. It would not make them as strong as humans, but it would reduce fracture rates significantly. A Vren geneticist studied human immune responses and found ways to enhance their own species' resistance to pathogens. Not to human levels, but enough to make a difference. A Queller psychologist studied human stress responses and developed new training methods for their military. The concept of exposure therapy, where you gradually adapt to difficult conditions, was alien to most species. They preferred to avoid stress entirely. Humans had learned to embrace it. Your species is fascinating, Q then told Minji during one research session. He had become the program's co-director. His initial fear replaced by scientific curiosity. You do not simply survive adversity. You seek it out. You challenge yourselves intentionally. We call it training, Minji said, or sometimes just fun. Humans climb mountains because they are there. We run marathons for recreation. We push ourselves because sitting still feels wrong. Earth made us that way. The third major change was military. The Council had always maintained peacekeeping forces, but they were designed for policing, not warfare. The Krell incident proved that was inadequate. General Hana was appointed to lead the Council's new military training program. She brought human instructors from Earth, veterans like Commander Doyen who had real combat experience. The aliens struggled at first. Human training methods seemed brutal. You want us to run for how long? A Vren soldier asked on the first day. 5 kilometers, Doyen said. Standard warm-up. That is not warm-up, the soldier protested. That is endurance trial. On Earth, human children run farther than that in school athletic programs, Doyen replied calmly. I am not asking you to match human standards. I am asking you to exceed your own previous limits. The training was modified for different species. Humans understood that aliens could not simply become human-level warriors, but they could become better versions of themselves. The key lesson was mental, not physical. Humans taught the concept of pushing through discomfort, of continuing when you wanted to stop, of making decisions under pressure. Pain is information, Sora told a class of Queller soldiers. Her ribs had healed months ago, but she used her injury as a teaching example. It tells you something is wrong. But pain alone is not a reason to stop. You evaluate. You decide. Can I continue? Is the mission more important than my discomfort? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But you make the choice. You do not let pain make it for you. It was a radical concept for species that had evolved on gentle worlds, but slowly it started to work. Council soldiers became more resilient. Not human tough, but tougher than they had been, the Krell noticed. They attempted another border raid 6 months after the previous defeat. This time, the Council's forces held their ground. The Krell retreated after encountering resistance they did not expect. They have changed, Warlord Thax reported to his leaders. The Council species are learning from the humans. They are becoming harder to defeat. The Krell leadership made a strategic decision. If they could not defeat the Council, they would join it. They applied for associate membership, hoping to gain access to the same training and knowledge that was making the Council stronger. The Council debated for weeks. Finally, Jiho cast Earth's vote in favor of acceptance. We do not win by excluding those who were once enemies, he said. We win by showing them there is a better way. Let the Krell learn. Let them see that strength is not only about conquest. The fourth major change was cultural. Human media, entertainment, and art began spreading through galactic networks. Aliens were fascinated by Earth stories, especially those that the humans considered normal. Adventure movies where characters climbed mountains, survived in wilderness, or fought against overwhelming odds were viewed as horror films by most species. Human children's stories about kids going on adventures without adult supervision seemed incredibly reckless. The children go into the forest alone, a Lutherian asked after watching a popular Earth animated film. Where are the parents? The safety systems? The emergency responders? It is fiction, a human exchange student explained. But also, human children are taught independence. We learn to assess risks and make choices. Yes, sometimes it is dangerous, but we believe the benefits outweigh the risks. It was a philosophy that slowly influenced galactic culture. Species began giving their young ones more freedom, not Earth levels of freedom that would be irresponsible, but more than before. The fifth and final change was in how the galaxy viewed humanity. The mockery was gone. The disbelief was replaced by respect, and sometimes by fear. Young Hyun became a symbol of this new dynamic. He was 12 years old. part of the first class of human students at the new Interspecies Academy. He was polite, friendly, and popular with his alien classmates. He was also casually capable of things they considered superhuman. During a physical education class, Hyun completed an obstacle course designed for teenage aliens. He finished in half the expected time, then asked if he could run it again because it was fun. In science class, he handled chemical samples that required his classmates to use protective gear. The chemicals could cause burns on their skin. Hyun's human skin was more resistant. He was careful, but not afraid. During a field trip to a low-gravity planet, Hyun and his classmates went on a nature walk. Something startled the group, a small animal. Harmless but unexpected. The alien students scattered in panic. Hyun calmly identified it as a local species of rodent, observed its behavior, and then helped calm his frightened friends. "You are not scared of anything," one of his Queller classmates said. "I get scared," Hyun replied, "but my parents taught me that being scared is okay. You just have to think through it. Assess the situation. Is there real danger? Can you handle it? What are your options?" He smiled. "On Earth, we learn this young because everything can be dangerous if you are not careful." The teachers reported that Hyun was a good influence on the other students. He taught them by example that courage was not the absence of fear. It was acting despite fear. President Jiho watched his son's progress with pride. The boy represented Earth's future in the galaxy, not as conquerors or warriors, though humans could be both, but as teachers and friends. The council held a ceremony 1 year after Earth's acceptance. It was meant to celebrate the integration and acknowledge the changes humans had brought. Ambassador Hana gave the keynote speech. She had been Earth's representative from the beginning, watching humans go from mocked applicants to respected members. "When we first came to this council," Hana said, "you did not believe us. You thought our world was a myth, that we were liars or fools. I do not blame you for that doubt. Earth is unlike any world you had encountered. We are unlike any species you had known." She paused, looking around the chamber at representatives from 100 worlds. "But you learned. You adapted.